In a major win for Hindu petitioners in the Gyanvapi mosque case, a local court in Varanasi has ruled that their right to pray petition will go forward. I'm Barkha, you're with the Mojo story. The Gyanvapi mosque has been in the headlines after Hindus petitioned the court saying that actually the mosque has been built on the debris of a temple. Hindu women petitioned the court saying that they want the right to offer daily prayers at a mandir within the mosque complex. I mean, they believe that after a recent videographical survey, they say a shivling has been found inside the complex. While the court is yet to take a final decision, the petition will move forward. Its maintainability was in doubt because of a law that we have called the Places of Worship Act. What is the Places of Worship Act? Well, effectively, it freezes the status quo on temples and mosques as of August 15, 1947, with the exception of Ayodhya, which, as we know, has already been resolved. The Places of Worship Act is separately being challenged in the Supreme Court. But the district court, while allowing the petition of the Hindu women to move forward, argued that the women were simply asking for the right to pray. They were not actually asking for the mosque to be converted to a temple. And therefore, their petition did not contradict the Places of Worship Act. Muslim groups are saying they're going to contest this and they're already moving the High Court. But the point is, after Ayodhya, with this happening in Kashi, incidentally, of course, the Prime Minister's constituency, will Mathura be next? And where will all of these battles end? To look at both the legality and the politics, let's introduce our panel on the program today. Tavleen Singh, columnist, journalist, author, is with us. We're also joined by Sanjoy, Ghose, who's a senior advocate in the Supreme Court. Welcome. Rahul, Easwar, commentator, columnist, philosophy author, as he is also known as, joins us. And we're hoping that Professor Gauhar Raza, who's having some connection problems, will be with us in a couple of moments. There he is as well. I'm hoping he can hear us. Let me start, actually, Sanjoy, by asking you to just explain, without your own opinion, what's actually happened here. We know that there's a Places of Worship Act. It was passed in 1991. It basically put a freeze of status quo ki jahan mandir hai, wahan mandir hai, jahan masjid hai, wahan masjid hai, with the exception of Ayodhya. The court today has ruled that this plea by Hindu women who want to pray at Gyanvapi doesn't contradict the Places of Worship Act. Can you just explain in simple terms what's actually happened here legally?
Yes, but give me some time.
Okay.
First, let's understand the Places of Worship Act. It came in 1991, and the context was clearly the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. And the whole objective of the parliament was that let us now accept that there is one dispute, Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid movement, and let us put a lid on all other disputes. And everyone knows that there was Kashi, Mathura, who were all waiting in the back burner for that. So this law is very unique. This law says that the status of the place, now it doesn't talk about property, it doesn't talk about property dispute. It says the place of worship status quo as on 15th August, as you rightly said, will be maintained. It also says that any kind of suit is barred, any kind of dispute is barred. If any suit is pending, they will stand abated, that you cannot fight anymore and alter the status quo of the place of worship. If it's a Gurudwara, it remains a Gurudwara. If it's a mosque, it remains a mosque. If it's a temple, it remains a temple. Now, so far, so good. The Act also says that there is an exception. Section 5 says Babri Masjid is left out of this Act. That will be as per the court verdict. And now we all know what happened in Babri Masjid.
Yeah.
The last thing this Act, Section 7 says, is overriding all other laws. So this law is the final law with regard to places of worship. Now, let's come to this particular dispute. Now, what happens is, a civil suit is filed in the lowest court of the hierarchy of courts, in the civil court, principal court in Varanasi, allegedly by certain women who say that we are doing this.
Why do you say allegedly? I mean, those women are on camera. They're there. They want to pray.
Yes, but
why are they allegedly by women?
But I mean, let's be very clear that there are a lot of forces behind. It can't be that there are 3-4 women who are fighting all the way to the Supreme Court. So there are other forces behind this litigation, as is in many other litigation. So, of course, the women are put forward because it's very simple to, it's like the Trojan horse, that you get an entry made. And how do you get the entry made? By saying that there was a Gauri Shringar, which is to happen in that place till 1933. And thereafter, every year, once it is allowed. So now we want to do it daily. Now, what happened there? Certain orders were passed and a local commissioner was appointed. And you know that whole fountain dispute. I did not go into this. Now, this went all the way to the Supreme Court. And this is where I feel the Supreme Court went wrong. The Supreme Court, and it came before the same judge, Justice Chandrachud, who was a part of this anonymous verdict of the Babri Masjid controversy, where they relied completely on this Places of Worship Act to say, look, India, everything is now settled. It's only this one little temple and mosque controversy which has to be done, and the Places of Worship Act is so great. These are the provisions, etc. Should have nipped it at the bud. Let's be very clear. Should have said, no, this suit cannot go through.
You're saying the Supreme Court should have invoked the Places of Worship Act to never have referenced this back to a local court in Varanasi.
Absolutely. And in fact, it did not reference it back to the local court. It actually set a very bad precedent. It said because it's such a serious matter, it should go to the principal district judge or his nominee of an additional district judge. Why?
Right.
Then every matter, that means you're trying to say we have no faith in the civil judge of a country. So therefore, now what has happened? Now let's come back. Now you've got the context. Let's come back to what now happens. Now, this is an application moved by the other side on under Order 7, Rule 11 for rejection of the plaint at the preliminary stage itself.
Basically, the Muslim groups went to the court and said the petition by the Hindu groups is illegal, non-maintainable.
Is not maintainable. The word illegal, we use the word not maintainable in the light of this Provisions Act.
Right.
Now, what the judge does is very interesting. The judge says, look, these ladies are not fighting for the property. They are only fighting. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
They're only fighting for a right to go and make some puja. And in 1933, they were doing it. So therefore, it is not trying to alter the status of the place of worship. It's not, the mosque is not being altered. There's no property dispute. It's just a right. What they are claiming is a right of user. So therefore, I can't hold the suit as not maintainable. This special provisions law of 91 does not come to guillotine this suit. It has to be heard.
Let me try and say it in a more non-legal language. Basically, the district court has said, and these are the women claiming victory today. These are the women who wanted the right to pray inside the complex of the mosque. The court has said that since these petitioners have not actually asked for the mosque to be converted into a temple, therefore it's not in contravention of the Places of Worship Act, and therefore this petition will go forward. Now, before I come to Tavleen, I want to just play out a small statement by one of these women petitioners explaining why they're in court and what they're seeking. Listen in.
आज पूरा भारत खुश है। आज हम भारत को यही एक सारे ब्रह्मांड में वो करना चाहते हैं। सबसे विनती है जितने हमारे हिंदू भाई बहन हैं, आज अपने घरों में घी के दीपक जलाए, शंख नगाड़े बजाए और हर हर महादेव का नारा लगाए। हर हर महादेव, बोलो शिकार भोरी माता की जय। बम बम बोल रहा है काशी, बम बम बोल रहा है बाबा, रहा न कोई बाकी कि बम बम बोल रहा है काशी, बम बम बोल रहा है काशी, बम बम बोलना भैरो बाबा, रहा न कोई बाकी।
Okay, so those are celebrations there, Sanjoy. And as I said, the district court says the petition is for the right to pray. The petition is not saying this mosque is a temple. Tavleen, let's bring you in. The point also is that none of these conversations can be decontextualized from the sort of the larger debate right now. The fact is that there is now a petition seeking a kind of similar resolution in Mathura. It effectively makes the Places of Worship Act with sort of freeze of status quo on all of these places of worship except Ayodhya. It renders them redundant. How do you see this debate?
I see it as a political nightmare. These women are not just women who've suddenly appeared out of nowhere. They're all related to the BJP and the RSS. We know this. If you check their antecedents, they're all married to somebody in the VHP or the RSS, etc. Now, you know what worries me? I actually believe, and I'm a non-believer and I'm not a Hindu, but I actually believe that Kashi and Mathura belong to the Hindus. And if the BJP was sincere in wanting these to be restored, and they should be restored, because it's ridiculous that there should be an Eidgah on top of where Krishna was born, okay? And you don't even need evidence that this was actually a very important Shiv temple that was desecrated by Aurangzeb. But please, why don't you do it directly? Why don't you, instead of this insidious little, oh, we were just going to worship and we want to worship every day, instead of this nonsense, why don't you get together with the Muslims who've been praying in that mosque and say, listen, let's come to an arrangement. That's not what they want. They want to set the country on fire. So you haven't played the rest of the clips from the Banaras today. They're saying 30,000 और मंदिर हैं जो हम वापस लेके रहेंगे. So for the next while, the rest of the world moves on and goes to space, etc. India is going to start doing what should have been done. And I don't know if it should have been done. It should have been done 75 years ago. It's too late for all this. And let's actually, in a civilized way, tell the Muslims which ones really bother you. Because if the Muslims say that this is just the beginning of 30,000 more, then they have a good case. But if you say it's Kashi, Mathura, and the end, then I'm sure that there are sensible Muslims who are ready to agree to that.
Yeah. On this particular case, Sanjoy made the point. I can see Shashank Shekhar join us as well. Welcome to the program, Shashank. Tavleen, you heard Sanjoy saying the original mistake of the Supreme Court and Justice Chandrachud was to send it back at all. That the Supreme Court should have said, other than Ayodhya, which is now resolved, there's a status quo, there's a freeze on all other places of worship. You don't agree with that. You're saying it should be finite, but you do make a case, in your opinion, for Kashi and Mathura.
Look, I actually think that law in 1991 should never have been passed. There should have been an agreement then. And, I think it was Narasimha Rao, or was it just after the Babri Masjid they passed it? I'm not sure.
It was actually before 91.
Before the Babri Masjid was pulled down. So, he opened the door for the Babri Masjid to be pulled down. I said, okay, guys, now you now go to bed, go to sleep now. We let the whole thing was political. This is not about religion. This is not about faith anymore. It's politics. And it's a very, very dangerous kind of politics. And I disapprove of it totally.
So ideally, you're saying that there should be some sort of finite, dialogue-driven settlement, Tavleen, that will once and for all resolve what you're calling a possible political nightmare. Before I open this up, Sanjoy, since you were just explaining the law and not giving your own opinion, do you want to just quickly jump in and then I'll go to the others?
No, my own opinion is that the trial court has completely gone wrong because, as I said, the central law does not talk about property rights. It is talking about the status of that place. So I just imagine if you're going to say that in a mosque, you're going to have people come and do Gauri Shringar, then what kind of status quo are you protecting? Let's flip it around. If in a Gurdwara you say every day a Hindu will come and do Hanuman Chalisa, will that Gurudwara remain a Gurudwara?
Tavleen's trying to say something. Tavleen?
They can. I have a Muslim friend who sat in the Darbar Sahib right in front of the Granth and did Muslim prayers. In a Gurudwara, there are 4 doors. Everybody can come in.
Anyway, I think Tavleen ji, you understand what I'm trying to say. So as Barkha started the program by saying that let's not forget the context of what we are talking about. It's very easy to get esoteric and technical and pedantic, but we are talking about an actual context. We are talking about a nation which is already bleeding with so much of division and so much of hate, and you're also speaking about it, and rightly so. Now, do you think that this is the right way? And once there is a law, I'm sorry, that law has been there in the book since 1991.
So hang on. This law, those are images, of course, from the ghats of Banaras. I was just going to go to Shashank, but he appears to have gone to black. No, there he's back. There's a contradiction in what's happening. Shashank. The district court today, while allowing the petition of the Hindu women to go forward, said their petition is for the right to pray. The district judge then specifically said the Hindu petitioners are not asking for the mosque to become a temple. Therefore, it does not contradict the Places of Worship Act. But in the later interviews on the streets, the petitioners were very excited and they said the foundation stone has been laid for a mandir to come. Now, there's a contradiction here. Are you asking for the right to pray and the mosque status quo to continue? That's the basis on which the district judge has allowed what he has. Or are you saying, you meaning the petitioners, or are they saying कि भाई ये mosque हटा के यहाँ मंदिर बनना चाहिए? And as Tavleen asks, where does this end? Where does this end? Shashank.
Namaste, Barkha and my fellow panelists. Barkha I guess 2 points. Now, what you say in court and what you say in streets are completely different. And I will give you a contemporary example. You see the hijab row. Priyanka Vadra speaks about right of women, but those who are in court speaks about Quran and the verses of Quran. So doesn't matter what you speak on the road or the streets. The material or the evidence or the acts you present before the court decide on the same thing. Now the district court today gave a verdict on the application of 711. 711 says that the suit which has been filed before the court does not have any merit and should be dismissed prima facie. Now Supreme Court led by Justice Sanjoy has said that it is to be decided by the district court. Now district court has decided, saying that since these women are praying for one day out of 365 and now they wish to pray for all 365 days, so that means that there is no change in circumstance, there is no change in their prayer, there is no change in the circumference where they are doing this, or there is no change in the structure. So the Places of Worship Act do not come in between, and that is why the district court has allowed it. Now you need to understand that if someone is praying at a particular place for one day a year, and if someone is praying at the very place for 365 days a year, I don't find that there is any change in the circumstance or the nature of the place.
Can I ask you this though, Shashank? Will this debate end with the right to pray, or will it go to the next level कि जहाँ masjid है वहाँ मंदिर होना चाहिए?
Barkha I guess there's one very fundamental problem, and I will agree with Tavleen ji's point where she said that the Act of 1991 shouldn't have come. Now see, the difference between Hindus and Muslims are Hindus go for their worship while Muslims go for their prayer. And while this particular act was for worship, there is nothing about the prayer. So that is why in Islamic history you will see that the places of prayer is being changed again and again, because there is no legal sanity to the same, and you can have namaz anywhere. Whereas for the I will just complete. Whereas for the worship, you need to have proper centrum and
I was just smiling. Everything. I was just smiling because actually there's such a debate over where namaz can be offered today. So एक तरफ हम कहते हैं कि नमाज कहीं भी ऑफर की जा सकती है, लेकिन दूसरी तरफ जब वो पब्लिक स्पेसेस में होती है, there's a whole lot of noise around it. But let me actually take to Gauhar and Rahul, and then we can give everyone a chance to speak again. Faizan Mustafa, Professor Gauhar, Raza, I'm really hoping you can hear me because you're on a terrible line today. Faizan Mustafa, who's a legal scholar, also happens to be Muslim. He made the suggestion that this dispute is not going to be solved by the courts. This dispute could easily take a different course if Parliament decides to simply amend the Places of Worship Act 1991. After all, it's a law. He said, Gauhar, that Muslim groups should voluntarily invite Hindu groups in and say, come, we're an inclusive place, come offer your prayers here, let our mosque be, respect our mosque, respect our place of worship, aap bhi pray kariye, hum bhi pray karenge. Is this something that you would support? Because how many such court battles, how many such fault lines are we going to wrench open? How far back in history do we go?
Barkha, I'm not a historian and I'm not a legal expert. So I don't know legalities of the whole thing. And I don't want to get into history because history has violence, history has amity and friendship, history has all kinds of things, bad and good. And what we learn from the history is much more important for me. Whatever has happened. And anything that is bad happened in the past, we abhor it just because it's bad. So while creating history, why do bad things? Number one, that is how I look at the whole process at the time of Ayodhya and now also. I agree completely with Tavleen ji that it's a political issue. In 21st century, it is not a religious issue. It is political issue, and therefore saying that ask Muslims to invite Hindus or ask Hindus to invite Muslims to pray in their places of worship will never be acceptable, because they have tasted the blood. When the yatra started for Ayodhya, that is when this government's seeds were sown. The present government seeds were sown. So everybody knows in a political formation and particular formations that when you raise the temperature of communalism in the country, they get the votes. That is what is the crux of the problem. Are we going to accept that reality, that there are forces in the country who are out there to divide? And this divisive politics is the aim. It is not the aim that 5, 6, 10 women are going to pray there, or 20 Muslims are not allowed to enter, etc. These are only details. You score a point here or there.
Yeah. So what's the solution? What's the solution? You're identifying the problem. What's the solution?
The solution is that we need to turn back and say we do not accept this politics. In 21st century, it is shameful that the country is not asking, and people are not asking, and political parties are not asking for colleges, schools, universities, hospitals, etc., etc. What they are asking is कि हमें यहाँ pray करना, हमें वहाँ pray करना. There are n number of places to pray.
Okay, there are people who believe. Go ahead, 1 minute. There are people who believe, including
Muslims can pray anywhere. The Hindus can also pray anywhere. There are so many temples.
Okay, 1 minute.
The city.
Let me get Rahul in.
Mandir, Masjid, Girja, Gurdwara, any of them, they should be converted in the country into colleges, etc., etc. These places should be used for secular purposes, and I sincerely believe that is what is going to be the future of the country. Okay. That is what is going to be the future.
Let me jump in here, Shashank, give me a second. Sir, I'm going to just stop you there because I need to give Rahul a chance. Shashank, give me a second. Rahul hasn't spoken at all. Rahul, in an idealized world, we all would say why we need hospitals and colleges. We need all of this more. Our gods are in our heart. I think we would all say this, but that's not how people or politics works, right? Let's say people or politics. There's politics at the heart of this. I think Tavleen is at the heart of the matter. How do you define the boundaries of this? There are Muslims, for example, even in the Congress party, who believe that Ayodhya, Salman Khurshid has made this point, that the Ayodhya judgment should have been embraced. It should not have been asked for, a review. Several prominent Muslims are making that argument. Faizan Mustafa, I quote him again. He's saying for Muslim groups to battle this legally is a losing battle. Find a different way to make your point. What do you think, Rahul?
Barkhaji, 4 points. First of all, I really respect Gauhar Saab for his good intention, but this strange sense of Nehruvian secularism has failed, will fail, because at the heart of heart, it doesn't concede and it doesn't take into confidence the believer's sentiments. See, we are a large nation. It is not that we don't have enough schools and colleges.
We don't have enough schools and colleges. But
let us do one thing. Let us make all the party officers of every party into schools and colleges and leave the temples and mosques. See, this is only a rhetoric. This is only an idealist rhetoric that will never work on ground. Second point, there is only one solution, and I'm proud to belong to that strand of solution in Kerala, where we have a mini mosque inside a temple. Even today morning, I have been to Erimeli, Shabarimala, where Hindus and Muslims compete with each other to celebrate each other's festival, where we take pride in touching the feet of a Maulavi who will give us bhasma. And the interesting thing is, inside the temple, there is a space for Vavar, Ayyappa's Muslim friend, and there is no idol kept, because Ayyappa believed that idol worship is haram for Vavar, and only that which is halal for Vavar should be allowed inside my temple when we remember his Muslim friend Ayyappa. So there is a strand of thought in India that really works. And third point, coming to the practical solution, imagine had Mahatma Gandhi been alive, what would have he done? If Nehruji would have been alive, he would have said, let us convert everything into schools and colleges, and sounded fashionable. If Mahatma Gandhi had been alive, he would have gone there, asked for Muslim brothers to conduct one bhajana there. He would have invited this woman. He would have invited some kind of a consensus. See, we lack that Gandhian centrist space. See, there are hardliners in every community. We have people like Yadi Narasimhanand or Satwi Prachi, against whom I have filed an FIR for her anti-Muslims and Islamophobic comments. We have hardliners. Similarly, we have hardline Islamist or hardline Wahhabi or whatever name you want to call. We have hardliners in every community. But 2 points are core. One, there has been some injustices in history, but we cannot take revenge on history. I don't belong to RSS, but RSS Sarsangalak Mohan Bhagavatji said a very important thing. He said, we cannot search for Shivaling under every mosque. That's a very important statement coming from a powerful Hindu organization. But please remember, this is not something like Modi ji and Mohan Bhagavatji will decide in the morning, let us create a problem in Kashi today. Let us create a problem in Mathura today. No, it happens because there has been some injustices in the past. So we need to reconcile with it. And just one more line. What is the way ahead? Tavleen ji rightly said, but I would like to say it with more positive tone. Let us sit, let us talk together, and let us have some modification to Places of Worship Act where we also include Kashi and Mathura. I don't think anybody in their right mind will tell that we need to reclaim 3,000 temples or 30,000 temples. Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev said it very right. We cannot take revenge on history, but there are some sensitivities involved. Let us take that into account and go for a consensus.
And what the interesting idea, Rahul, you have that I want to take to Tavleen first, and then I'll come to everybody else, is that the solution has to lie within faith itself. It has to be mediated, it has to be community driven, and it has to be a kind of interconnectedness of religions. I think that's the point that Rahul is making. Some might say even that is too idealistic. Tavleen, what do you think?
Well, I've been banging on about the need for a truth commission. Why don't we have a truth commission with the Dalai Lama there, with the Shankaracharyas, with the Maulvis, the big muftis or whatever? Let them sit there and say, listen, we don't want to set this country on fire anymore, because it's not a matter of faith anymore. If they are real men of faith, they will say that. If they are real men of faith, they will point out that, there are two temples. I mean, for me, when I went on Janmashtami once to Mathura, I hate to put fire myself into this thing, but I was offended, and I'm a Sikh. I was offended that where Krishna, and you can feel the presence in that cell of something terrible having happened. And on top of that, there's an Eidgah. Move the wretched Eidgah next door. I mean, what is the problem? And certainly in Banaras, and I totally agree with Mohan Bhagwat. Can you imagine? I'm saying this. He's right. You can't go around looking for shivlings everywhere and say, and they, by the way, have not lent their support to this movement that started in Banaras. It's not about faith anymore. It's about politics. And it's very, very dirty politics that will win the BJP elections. It helps the BJP. They went from 2 to, what was it?
80. It was 2 to 80 on the back of the Ram Mandir movement. Yeah.
Right? So if they stir this up enough, then by 2024, you can get some votes. But what are you doing to India? How anti-national is that behavior?
Shashank, would you support, before I come to Sanjoy, the idea of a truth commission, a multi-religious truth commission, a community-mediated settlement? Because actually, this is district court, phir Allahabad High Court aayega, phir Supreme Court aayega. This is another 10 years at least of keeping this issue alive and keeping communities divided. I would much rather actually be able to see multi-religious dialogue in these complexes, multi-religious prayers if needed, where you're not looking to displace the Muslims in some triumphalist way, but you're actually saying, mujhe bhi yahan puja karne dijiye. Why are we not approaching this in a community-oriented way? Shashank.
Barkha ji, I will disagree with the point that this is political and not faith-wise, because of the fact that BJP is not doing it, but there are actually devotees who are going to court. There are people like me, for example, who is supporting this. If someone is saying that BJP will get benefit of it, I will assure that BJP does not need this Gyanvapi Masjid or Mandir issue to win next elections. Do any survey and you will know the number of votes they will be getting in 2024. However, coming to the point where you are asking me whether we should have a truth committee, yes, we must have a truth committee, because I will tell you, Barkha ji, I feel that these two temples will not end the issue. There are n number of mandirs who have been converted by invaders. And see, the problem is there could be structures built by Islamic leaders. That is not a problem. But when you make a structure over a Hindu mandir, that is un-Islamic. Even Islam says that you cannot take
Okay.
the places of other
Shashank, but
religions.
that's the point. Shashank, can I jump in here? That's exactly the point. आपको लगता है कि ये यहाँ नहीं खत्म होगा. We are saying कि कहीं तो खत्म होना है. नहीं तो
Yeah, so that is why
you're तो
that is why
perennially keeping 1 minute communities divided. I just want to take your point to the others. See, I'm not a theologian. मुझे नहीं मालूम कि इस्लाम ये कहता है और हिंदुइज्म ये कहता है. There is so I want to avoid the essentialism of those comments. Let me just get Tavleen briefly. I want you to interject and go to Gauhar, and sorry Sanjoy, you've been waiting as well. Tavleen, go ahead.
I just wanted to make the point that the women who have gone, who said they want to pray every day in a mosque, those women are all related to BJP and VHP leaders. Why are we pretending that they're not?
But look at the Ram Mandir. 1 minute. Let me make a counter argument here. I'm not saying you're wrong. You're right. That you can't have such a petition without any patronage. However, the Ram Mandir has reached a place where every single political party in India, right? Every single political party in India actually welcomed the building of the mandir. It started as a BJP movement, but it very quickly mainstreamed itself, and that's the point, Sanjoy. That you can look at this as a BJP versus others issue, but there's a larger context, there's a larger public discourse, and what happened in Ayodhya actually exemplifies that. Today, no political party would question the mandir in Ayodhya. And that is why I don't understand what the courts can do. How many such petitions is the court going to handle?
See, luckily for me, Barkha, I'm not a politician. I have no allegiance to any political party. They're all the same. They're all absolute, the lowest of the low. As a lawyer, I can tell you that we have to follow the law. And that's why I was telling the gentleman, my learned colleague on the panel, who was saying that worship and the distinction between worship and prayer. The act itself, section 2C, clearly says place of worship includes mosque. So, let us not create all these ridiculous hair splitting to somehow justify why this act should not be invoked. Now, just one thing I want, this dialogue, what Tavleen ji also said, let's give Kashi and Mathura. I know I may draw flack for this, but history is cyclic. And we heard the same logic, when Hitler wanted Sudetenland, when Hitler wanted the Czech Republic. They all said, that this is German land, they're German speaking, let's give it to him, he'll stop after that. And that was exactly what Chamberlain thought. So that's the whole thing, where do you stop? Where do you stop the appeasement? We have to at one stage say this is the law. We cannot change history. Our country has a lot of other issues to deal with. We have the largest unemployment since independence. We have the fuel prices going up. We have so many issues. It's very sad. And, that's a political thing. I don't want to comment on politics, why the people are doing this. As Gladstone once said, England gets the government it deserves. We get the government we deserve. If we are going to fight over all these issues, then we get the government we deserve. I, as a lawyer, can only talk about the law. And
okay, Shashank briefly, then Rahul and Gauhar. Shashank, very briefly, please go ahead. Shashank.
Thank you so much. 3 points. One, I would again say that yesterday's news, Waqf Board has actually claimed an entire city while saying that this is Waqf property and Islamic property. Point number 2, when we are quoting Places of Worship Act, we must also know that it exempts all those buildings or structures which are over 100 years old. And third point, I guess what I made it clear that it will not end on these two. There should be a truth committee as proposed by someone in the council.
Okay, but I want to clarify one thing. I think the exemption is only for Ayodhya, but there is another argument made there about archaeological. Sanjoy, do you want to comment?
Ancient Monument Act. Ancient Monument Act.
Yes. Sanjoy?
This was asked earlier. This is with regard to, for example, Taj Mahal and other monuments which already the ASI is taken over, and it's regarding that. It's not with regard, and let's be very clear, the elephant in the room when this act was enacted was ये तो सिर्फ झांकी है, काशी मथुरा बाकी है. We've all grown up, we
But
know exactly.
Sanjoy, this act was passed on the watch of a Congress government. Let us just please remind everybody that this, so we've spoken a lot about the benefit to the BJP, but the Congress has its own role in history for how we got to where we did in terms of what happened in Ayodhya eventually. I just wanted to flag that. 1991,
Absolutely.
1991 is when this legislation was brought in. Go ahead, Raza, please.
Rajiv Gandhi was the one who started his campaign by opening
Absolutely.
the doors of Ayodhya.
Absolutely. So,
to offset the Shah Banu fiasco. So we all know history.
Yeah. Go ahead, Raza, sir. Go ahead, Raza. Truth Commission, is that the way forward, sir? Go ahead, Raza.
No, as I said, that once you have brought the elephant in the room, then you can't stop it. And which is what happened in 1991, 1992. The whole thing started, it was highly political, and despite the fact that some people can keep on claiming that it's a question of religion, faith, etc., I don't accept it. The other thing was, a point was made that it has been made repeatedly by all kinds of rightist forces. I can assure all panelists sitting here that all of us are invaders, because all of us migrated about 50,000 years from Africa. This is 21st century scientific era for humanity. And we know that all of us have come here and settled here. Some people came early, some people settled at other places, came to India, etc. और बेहद खूबसूरती के साथ जो जिस तरह से रघुपति साहेब गोरखपुरी ने डिफाइन किया है कि कारवां आते रहे, हिंदुस्तान बसता गया. तो कोई anybody claiming that I am aboriginal in India is a totally bunkum kind of argument. It doesn't hold good as far as science is concerned.
And also, what does it achieve for the nation? I must ask
my friend to go and get his DNA checked. I can assure him that his cousins would be, a number of them would be Muslims sitting somewhere, or Christians. Because my first very close cousins come from Punjab. They are settled in various European countries. So please, this is 21st century. If you are going to decide things based on faith and not law, as one of my friends said here, then there is going to be a massive problem. And we are taking back the country to maybe 4,000 years.
So here's my question for Rahul and Shashank. Both have their hands up. Rahul, you first, then Shashank, and then Tavleen can have the last word. We do need to close. Rahul, how is it a useful conversation for the country ki original inhabitant kaun tha, invader kaun tha? How far back will you go? Who are the original people of India? This is, there is history and science to argue this. For academia, what good does it do this nation today in 2022? I do not understand.
Barkhaji, none of us are invaders here, not anyone sitting in the panel. We are all belong to this land. And especially I come from Kerala, where we have the third oldest mosque in the world, where we believe our king went to meet Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in holy Mecca. And we have the oldest of Christian churches in the world, especially back in AD 52. See, you can have two narratives. One, going for the so-called scientific Nehruvian secularist perspective, or going for a Gandhian pluralistic, inclusive Hindu-Muslim bye-bye perspective. It is up to us which to choose. The Nehruvian model will only fail. Gandhiji cleverly edited the lines of Raghupati Raghava Rajaram and added Ishwarallah Terona. He did it for a purpose. He did it because he wanted active Hindu-Muslim unity. Now India is torn apart between two options. Either you are secular or either you are communal. Either you are ultra-secular or you are ultra-communal. But there is a third path called Gandhian pluralism, which our nation cherished, where there is a give and take, whether there is consensus, where Vande Mataram's 2 paragraphs were edited because our Muslim brothers had a slight issue with it, where our tricolor flag was designed because every community wanted to be included in it. That kind of attitude should be put forth, and these kind of issues will naturally die down. When harmony comes, these kind of hatred will naturally die down, and a sense of consensus.
But Rahul, how can that harmony come when you have petitioners on the streets? And Shashank has made this point that what you say in court matters, but there is a larger mahal, jisko kehte hai. And when on the streets you're saying ki ye to shuruaat hai. ये तो शुरुआत है. This is the beginning. That's not going to create harmony either, right?
Create a more positive
Shashank?
mahal. Create a more positive mahal.
I like the idea that you say that where is the modern day Gandhi? Now, Shashank, the modern day Gandhi is not going to be, I beg your pardon, the modern day Gandhi is not going to be found in triumphal, aggressive claims or proclamation that Islam aisa hai, Hinduism aisa hai. Tell me the solution. As we close, what is the solution according to you, Shashank? Shashank, you're on mute. Unmute yourself, please. Yeah.
I guess the solution would be to give away all those which are being claimed by Hindus having, Vedic background. When Rahul says that he needs to have modern day Gandhi, I fail to remind him. I will remind him that it was Gandhi and India was partitioned on the basis of religion, because he used to say Ishwar Allah Telo Ram, but he could not even say it to the Muslim brothers. Now the problem is, the conversation must be from both sides.
More Muslims stayed back in India than went to Pakistan. Let's
exactly.
Also remember that.
And how many Hindus are left in Pakistan is a history.
That's not okay. That's a separate debate.
No, but then that is the point, because see, वो जो अभी कह रहे थे कि कारवां आता गया और हिंदुस्तान बनता गया, मैं कहूंगा कारवां आता गया और हिंदुस्तान बंटता गया. जितने जगह पे आप देखेंगे मुस्लिम माइनॉरिटी हुआ, वहीं आज की डेट में रिलीजियस वायलेंस होता है.
चलिए सॉल्यूशन बताइए, क्योंकि इस पे तो हम लोगों की कभी सहमति नहीं बन पाएगी. हम आर्ग्यू करते रहेंगे और डिबेट कोर्स होगा. आपके मुताबिक आगे का सॉल्यूशन क्या है शशांक?
See, I guess बरखा, अगर सॉल्यूशन की बात करें, मेरे ख्याल से अगर ये दो मंदिर पे सॉल्यूशन अगर खत्म करना है तो अयोध्या की तरह इतना लंबा केस नहीं चलना चाहिए. सही में कम्युनिटी को आके कहना चाहिए कि अगर ये दो आपके वेदों में लिखा हुआ है, आपके इतिहासों में लिखा हुआ है, तो आप ये ले लीजिए और हम केस नहीं करेंगे. 70 साल तक अगर अयोध्या का केस चलता रहे, 550 साल चले, और उसके बाद अगर जीत जाए हिंदू साइड, और तब आप कहेंगे अरे अयोध्या तो आप जीत गए, बाकी पे क्यों कर रहे हैं? That won't work for काशी और मथुरा.
Okay, I have to close. Tavleen, last word. Got your point, Shashank? Tavleen, yeah.
In my view, this is bad politics, dirty politics, and the people who are playing it are anti-national. Anyone who loves this country will say, hold back, we are not going to put this country on fire for any reason. That's my final comment.
Okay, I think we can end with wondering what the Mahatma would have done. I think Rahul gives us an interesting thing to think about. How would he have brought, or she, a contemporary Mahatma, have brought communities together that are currently being literally pitted one against the other. And in my opinion, in my humble opinion, the courts are not going to perform the mediatory bridge building role that has to come from within people and with effective compassionate leadership. Leaving it there, Sanjoy, Tavleen, Shashank, Gauhar and Rahul. Thank you. And to our audience, see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.